Hi there, and welcome to another Carnivore Team GB. You're lucky you got the A team. We've got rid of the B team, those wasters, Ben, and I've forgotten his name, Jonathan something or other, Carnivore Muscles or something like that. Anyway, so we've got Lee Copus, the Kent Carnivore, who, strangely enough, I've just been doing an interview with Homestead Howe Kerry, and he mentioned Lee, the Kent Carnivore, and we've also got Phil Escott, of course. The granddaddy of carnivore, who's been around a long time, haven't you, Phil?
Well, yeah, just slightly longer than you.
Yeah, well, yes.
What do you mean around the carnivore thing? Oh, I suppose so. Yeah, quite a while.
Yeah. So you've got some really good experience here, and you've got Lee, who's incredibly intelligent and fantastic talker, and a really good YouTube channel. So you can tap into his knowledge with any questions that you want. But Phil, I'm going to ask you firstly about something you're doing, some sort of ancestral health festival or something. What you got to tell us about that?
We tried to keep you out of it, but in the end we thought, well, I suppose we better have you speaking as well. ancestralhealthfestival.com, and it's on 17th and 18th of August in Rainford in England. And come along. We have all kinds of stuff, butchery demos, fire pits to cook the food over, maybe not pull whole all-nighters around them. Lots of great speakers. Got Sarah Pugh, got Stephen here, we've got Richard, Ben, and Nikita Stark, who's really wonderful on all the natural birth and stuff. Hell of a character. She's great. And all sorts of things, natural movement stuff and stalls. And yeah, we'll even be playing with the Daz band. So I'll be playing some drums there on the Saturday night. And yeah, come along. It's going to be good. I'll put the link up in the chat, but ancestralhealthfestival.com. Check it out.
Excellent.
Even I think I've got podcast episodes on there with absolutely all the speakers. So, you know, if you don't know everybody, go and check them out too, and the bios and this and that. So come along.
Yeah, should be fun. Lee, what's happening in your world?
In my world, I'm basically getting back to my YouTube. I've been pretty busy. My eyes are actually kind of feeling like they're trying to weep, you know. I've been on the laptop for quite a bit today. I've definitely got to get that software for my eyes. But yeah, just a bit busy on the YouTube, trying to get the content back up. And I've managed to get a video up sort of every day so far, and responding to as many of the first comments that pour in. And then obviously back out window cleaning during the morning into the afternoon, then come back and then just more projects and more responding and all sorts of stuff. So pretty busy at the moment. It's crazy how short the days feel, you know. It's almost like I want another 5 or 10 hours in each day just to get everything done. But that's me, really. It's pretty simple. Just looking after myself. I haven't even eaten today, actually. I've taken out a bit of, I've got a lovely bit of ribeye that joins the sirloin. So you got that best of both worlds. I'm probably going to chuck that on the barbecue when we're done. So, yeah.
And do you feel fully recovered?
Yeah, I think if I was to probably hang from a bar, I think that I'd probably feel that stretch on my stomach. But I'm feeling fully recovered in the context of doing everyday things. So getting into bed, sleeping, you know, rolling out of bed, getting dressed, getting in the van and going to work. All of that stuff, I'm not really aware of any kind of niggles and pains or anything like that. I've healed really, really well, and the scar tissue looks very healthy. You know, I think if I prod around, you can still feel the tenderness. That's going to take some time probably to get 100% back to normal. But yeah, I would say I'm fully recovered in as far as I can do everything that I want to do, you know.
Excellent. And if you heard someone pop it in,
Smith.
it was the UK's top nutritionist that's seen on TV. Not the UK's top nutritionist, the world's top nutritionist that's seen on TV. Richard Smith, Keto Pro. He's muted. Look at that. The only time he'd be quiet the whole hour.
That's it. Yeah. How are we doing, gents? You all okay?
Good. Hello, mate.
Great to see you all. Been a while.
Yeah, it's been.
So I just asked Lee how his life is, and I've just asked Phil what's going on. So, Richard, have you got anything planned for this weekend, for instance, that you want to talk about?
This weekend? No, not awful lot. Boring one for me. Nothing but work for me, unfortunately. But yeah, it's
No, he's not thinking straight, this boy.
yeah.
What's happening on the 7th of the 7th then? At 8 o'clock in the morning?
Well, that is next week, isn't it? Technically.
Well,
Yeah. So
yeah.
the 7th of the 7th is our 24-hour live. Yeah, super looking forward to that one. Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yes.
Coffee free. Coffee free.
Don't
Why-
oversell it, mate. Don't oversell.
Why coffee free? Do you challenging yourself to give up some coffee or what?
I already have, yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm 3 weeks plus coffee free for a number of reasons. I've always been a big promoter of coffee. I think it does confer a benefit in the right circumstances. It's a known fat mobilizer. It works synergistically with several compounds to increase the efficacy, particularly MCT and BHB. It's a known ergogenic aid, which means it can improve athletic performance. And it's a potent fat mobilizer. So if we drink coffee before we work out, then we burn more fat. But it's been a crutch for me over the last few years. I've always been a big promoter. The likes of Dr. Chafee don't use coffee because it causes inflammation. It's never done that to me. I've only ever seen the positive side. But recently, I came down with a lot of pain in my legs, loads of other conditions I won't bore you with now, but they were conditions that were similar to motor neurons disease. So not so good.
Yeah.
Began to look into that and the effect of acrylamide, which is a compound that is found in coffee and in decaf coffee. It's a compound that's created during the roasting process. It's not only found in coffee, it's found in other compounds that are burned also. But acrylamide is a known potent neurotoxin, which can lead to inflammation in the legs and neuro damage. Similar symptoms come from mycotoxins, which are also found in coffee. So whether it was one or the other, but I fell into the rabbit hole of drinking not just one coffee per day, but I built to the equivalent of 20 cups per day.
Whoa.
So a bit excessive, yeah. So I was drinking 4 to 5 cups, but I was having 2 double shots in each cup. So the equivalent of an average, 20 cups per day. Self-employed, work 7 days a week. I get the pleasure of, networking with you guys at 7 p.m. on weeknights, and things take their toll. And coffee was a big crutch for me. The interesting thing with coffee, and I'm going off on one now, apologies, is that it doesn't give you energy. Caffeine doesn't give you energy. It blocks the adenosine receptor. It blocks your body's ability to tell you that you're tired. So all you're doing is robbing, or you're borrowing energy. You're borrowing, today's, borrowing energy from tomorrow, if you like. But
I'm not fatigued now. Let me be fatigued a bit later when it wears off. Yeah,
exactly.
it's interesting.
We all have to pay the piper. The bank's got to be repaid eventually. And I think this is what my body was telling me in regards to the acrylamide and the mycotoxins. So something that I've been addicted to, all my adult life. The second most addictive drug I've ever been addicted to, the first being sugar. This was a crutch for me for many years, and it's gone. Just like I dropped when I suffered with these conditions that really scared me, I dropped the coffee, and all is now well. So yeah, looking forward to the 24-hour live with no coffee.
Hey, it's brilliant.
Anthony reckons it's a proper neurotoxin, doesn't he?
Yeah, it is.
And
yeah.
Talking about neurotoxins, I've got a good one. I've that festival that I played at the weekend down south in Dorset, where they've got a massive tick explosion. I pulled 3 out of my leg, and I've still got. It's actually only just stopping, but I had like a complete numbness on the outside of my knee and the inside of my ankle from whatever they were injecting into me, and they were tiny little, like millimeter or 2 things. Ticks, eh?
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be going checking for bullseye rashes. I don't know. What do you think about this Lyme disease? I think that we've been bitten by ticks for millennia. And I think there's just something pretty weak in the human species now that allows people to get Lyme disease. What do you reckon?
Yeah, makes sense.
So really, but yeah.
Yeah. There might be more at play, I think, but
Maybe.
let's get on to the questions. 'Cause, it's on my channel. This is running, and
TikTok.
my theories might not go down a storm on YouTube. Matthew is asking, what are your thoughts on measuring body fat percentage on mobile apps, machines, the old school way with body fat calipers and tape measures, and also I would say progress photos and the mirror, and how your clothes fit.
Yeah, do you want me to jump in?
Yeah, go
Go on.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've personally used calipers. I think calipers are the single most accurate and inexpensive measurement of body fat. Although I don't use it for the fat conversion, I just use it for the millimeter fold. And the reason I do this is that you can be gaining weight while losing fat or building muscle and bone density. And when you stall, it can be so demoralizing because the scale doesn't always tell the truth. Of the body fat calipers, you can pick these up on the internet for £2 to £3. I think they're available on Amazon for like £5 to £7. Cheap piece of plastic, which is a fantastic tool for measuring the skin folds in specific places. I think that's the single best piece of equipment that you can use that is incredibly inexpensive. The most accurate is going to be a DEXA scan, but second to that is the body composition, in-body composition machines, which are, I think they're 99% accurate to a DEXA scan, which I have and I also use. But the in-body machines, they're around £5,000 a pop. We put one in the shop, so I still have that now, which I've loaned out to another health institute around the corner from me. But the body calipers, I think those are going to be number one. Tape measure works as well. But as Stephen says, the clothes and how you see yourself in the mirror, progress photos, all fantastic ways. The scale is probably the worst one, I think, in my opinion, especially for, it's a fantastic tool for demoralizing someone when they are actually making progress.
Anyone else?
I've got zero experience with this, to be honest with you. I just going through personal anecdote kind of thing. I just go by how I feel. So in the beginning, I was losing too much fat too fast, and that kind of interfered with everything, hormones, sleep, and all that kind of stuff. So I just listened to my body. You're probably looking into it for a different reason, perhaps. But yeah, I haven't really played around with any of this stuff because I've never really been that interested to see exactly what I was, because I wasn't really sort of aiming for anything. But yeah, I think once I get below into single digits, which I definitely did in the beginning, I just feel pretty terrible, so that's about it.
Yeah.
Phil?
Yeah, well, not much really. I absolutely agree with Richard. I think, the scales are a terrible guideline as to what's going on. But yeah, my only real experience with body fat calipers, I remember, was when I could hardly get it into the clamp bit at the end. I was so fat. I remember being delighted that I could actually get some fat in there. But since then, I can't remember where they've gone. I've got some sitting somewhere. But yeah, they were quite useful. I did see much more useful information using those. But I have no experience of apps and things like that. So no idea. But
Yeah, I think one of the things I always say about the bike, where they use the electrical charge. What's the phrase? Anyway, they might not be accurate, but they give you a trend. So let's say it says your body fat percentage is 18%, and it's actually in reality, if you did a DEXA scan, 16%, and you lose 2% on the scale, you probably have lost 2%. So I wouldn't look at the absolute value. I'd just look at the trend of those scales, because they will give you some idea of what's going on. So, yeah, if you're wondering about the voice, by the way, sadly, I'm a sad bloke who shouts at the screen when England are playing football. So England are atrocious at the moment, hence I can hardly speak. Obviously, they can hear me. So I just give them a lot of direction, but they just don't seem to listen. Right, so I'm not even going to read that name.
I shout it a bit. I can't just shout, what are you doing? Stop it. Grown men in shorts kicking a bladder around a field. It's a closed book to me. Pack it in.
Well, when I used to watch with my mum, she would always shout, "Run faster." Yeah, that'd do it. Right. I asked my butcher, this is not me, by the way. I asked my butcher to prepare fatty beef mince at 30 to 35% fat, which is pretty good. Delicious, but most of the fat melts during cooking. Am I missing out on benefits from eating mainly melted rather than intact fat? Thanks. Good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shall I
kind
quick
of.
go? Okay. I don't think so at all. It depends on how good your bile production is, I'd say, and how well you're digesting it. Some people have trouble with rendered fats, and they find it easier to digest solid fat or even raw fat. I know some people who've gone to like cooking lean steaks and having raw fat with it, and just a slice of raw fat or whatever, when you have people often without gallbladders or whatever. But I don't think there's any particular advantage. I know that Zofia at Paleomedicina says that, you know, if you have no problem digesting either, there's no difference whatsoever to the sort of benefits and healing powers of a high fat diet. But I just, you know, with the fatty beef mince, I don't really enjoy it that much. The fat that's actually in the beef mince, I tend to go and get lumps of grass-fed fat from the local butchers, well, the local farm shop, and then add that. Sometimes I even purposely get lean mince so it doesn't have that sort of supermarket fat in it or butcher fat, and get the real grass-fed fat and get that, just add it as tallow afterwards that I've rendered down. So I still would say that unless I'm eating lamb chops, most of the fat I eat is rendered as well and melted, and that's absolutely fine, I think. Anybody else?
Yeah, I thought that person was discarding the melted fat. I personally can't tolerate a lot of rendered fats because that makes me feel a little bit overwhelmed after about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I haven't really gotten used to that. If anything, over time, I've kind of gravitated away from more rendered fats and things like that. I was eating more ground beef in the beginning, and even slow cooked things like short ribs and oxtail, which I still enjoy, but I'm preferring to eat the fat more intact now, or a little bit less done. But I think if you can tolerate it, I can't see why not. A lot of the fats and the vitamins and the fatty acids, they're pretty stable at high heat, and so I don't think that that's going to really sort of change the bioavailability of the nutrients if you're getting it in. I think that that's fine. Yeah, I just misread.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think some people do struggle with rendered fat, but if you flourish with it, that's great. Missing out on benefits from eating mainly melted fat? No, I don't think you're missing out on any, really. Right, here we go. Sophia Green is saying, does Carnivore help with spinal stenosis? Asking for a friend because they asked today.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, you probably know a lot about this, Steve. It's probably one for you, isn't it? But it's going to be a lot of information involved there, isn't it? Going carnivore allows the body to create ketone bodies, in particular beta hydroxybutyrate. When we produce and utilize BHB, there we are, I knew he'd say it. BHB blocks a pathway called NLRP3 inflammasome. So it's certainly going to help with inflammation between the joint. I'm sure Steve can get well into the technical side of it, but I should imagine that BHB production is going to do that and confer a benefit, Steve.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that technical, actually, because you can't really see this. But the nerves that come out, I'm going to be very basic, they come out of holes that are created by the vertebrae sitting on top of each other and the disc being plump in between. And if you're inflamed, those nerves will be pinched, basically. So anything that reduces inflammation means that the nerves are less likely to be pinched. There is a lot more to stenosis than, which is just a posh way of saying, you know, it's a bit narrower. Whether you've got central, and let's try and get that on the camera, whether you've got cervical stenosis or lumbar stenosis, it doesn't really matter. The point is you want all of these things not to be inflamed, but you do want the disc to be plumped up. So the discs in between each vertebrae, and this is going to explain some things. So when the discs in between, we've got an expert coming on, because I think Jonathan's going to come on, which is great. The discs, basically, when they do this negative positive pressure, and the disc is in between the two vertebrae, that will draw in nutrients. So when you're lying down asleep, the first time you get up in the morning, you're a little bit stiff. That's because this hasn't been happening. So those discs are not plumped up, and this is why you get taller throughout the day as you walk and you get activity going. It can be about 2 centimeters. So imagine those discs being 2 centimeters plumper. You're going to get better. You're going to get better movement of your back, and you're going to have less pain because the nerves aren't going to be impinged. Jonathan, are you coming on? Is Jonathan coming on, do you think? He's put his camera in the backstage. But anyway, yes. So the short answer is yes. Carnivore can help, mainly because it brings the inflammation down. But there's many other things that are going to happen as well.
There was something that might apply to this, which was something that Jack Cruz said a long time ago, which was when he was talking about people with osteoarthritis and how the body can actually raid the cartilage to get sulfur when it runs out of sulfur. And so, you know, if you're eating a diet that blocks the uptake of sulfur, then you're going to get in trouble, and people can regrow cartilage. It's a slow process. But, you know, if you have some egg yolks and other sort of carnivore foods that contain a load of sulfur, that can help a lot. And maybe even some MSM powder. And I'm not great with supplements, so I'd like to ask Richard what he thinks about this. But, you know, for upping the sulfur intake. But that's interesting about taking up the nutrients while you're in bed. That makes sense. What do you think about MSM powder, Richard, for cartilage?
Oh, Steve, we looked into this a little while ago, didn't we? I can't remember. I'll have to go back and look at my research. Probably not the answer you wanted.
Aren't they just
whether it, you know? So I've always wondered whether it's bioavailable. It seems to really help. The people I've worked with osteo arthritis, they seem to get more benefits, and it seems to sort of regrow quicker when they do take that stuff. I think all the other stuff for joints like chondroitin and things like that, I think they're nonsense mostly in the health food shops, but that seems to be quite a useful one. Tastes foul and costs almost nothing, but so it may be worth a go. Yeah,
it must be good if it doesn't taste good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there were studies in Durham, and it was the cartilage can regrow, and they call it the salamander-like effect, because the salamander are notorious for regrowing bits and pieces. And what did they say here? This is from the study. We believe that an understanding of this salamander-like regenerative capacity in humans and the critically missing components of this regulatory circuit could provide the foundation for new approaches to repair joint tissues and possibly whole human limbs. So that was what the study was looking at, that you were getting these newly created proteins and you were getting cartilage regenerating. So what was it? It was also about the areas, wasn't it? And we were talking about that certain areas really responded. Like, for instance, the ankles were particularly good. When we did this, we did a whole thing about this, Rich and I, and yeah, it's pretty interesting actually, because a lot of animals can regrow their cartilage as well. So yeah, it's something that can happen, definitely, because it's a myth according to a lot of people. Just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, Jonathan, he's going to come back and speak about that at some point. So let's go back to the comments. This is why I don't like running these, because he's so much better. Right, hang on, let's have a look. Right. Well, I can't see your camera, Jonathan, but can I add you to the stage? All right, okay, cool.
Yeah, I can't speak unless you add me to the stage, so I was just talking to no one.
Sorry about that. I was waiting for the camera to switch on.
All right, so was this a question about spinal stenosis?
Yes.
Okay, it's a structural deformity. No matter what you do in terms of diet, it will not change that structural deformity. It will not do it. I followed loads of people's advice when I started for 2.5 years. and it caused me more pain, more suffering because I listened to them. You can reduce the inflammation around that area, but if it is that bad and that the radiographer, the person looking at your charts, has said, oh, you know, it's clear spinal stenosis and foraminal stenosis around the L5S1 vertebrae, and L4 also has disc, this, that, and the other, bulge. All these things, some things like this can resolve themselves. Usually not, apparently, statistically. And spinal stenosis, you can reduce the inflammation, some of the pain through the diet, but it will not fix a structural deformity. It will not fix it. If it did, I'd know. I would definitely know. That's the thing. So I'd just be looking at your level of suffering and see, you know, how much do you want to thrive versus how much do you not. The stricter you'll be on the carnivore diet, the less inflammation you experience. But just have to accept, you know, depending on your level of pain, it might come back, it might, you know, ease itself a little bit, but it's always going to be there unless you have surgery. No stem cells won't fix it. No PRP won't fix it. No ketones, no minerals, MSM, glucose, nothing will fix it. I'm telling you, I promise you, nothing will fix it. So make sure you've got the right diagnosis, follow a low inflammatory diet. That's what I would do. And there's a question about MSM. Some people do have a higher requirement for MSM, yes. Some people do anecdotally notice a benefit from it. I did for my skin, and I was using a combination of MSM and beef tallow, red light therapy to clear my 3-year persisting, I don't know, it almost looked like psoriasis. But yeah, that's my take on those two things. But yeah, I'm going to go back off now and rest a little bit. So cheers. All right.
Cool. Yes. And a rookie mistake for me. I didn't realize that you could do the StreamYard without the camera on. So there you go. Live and learn. But hopefully Jonathan will be back next week in full effect with a picture and also and the voice as well, which would be good. Right. Let's go on to the next question, which is, let's have a look here. A weird anecdote on antibiotics for a tick bite and finding coffee flares up my toothache. Other hot drinks don't. Any chems in coffee that could explain this?
Yeah, lots of toxic chemicals in coffee, as we mentioned earlier with the mycotoxins, but acrylamide. Acrylamide, if you Google acrylamide, it's a potent neurotoxin, as Phil said earlier. Detrimental, and that's why I removed it. But it's caused major issues for me in my legs recently, which is why I've now quit coffee after years and years and years of drinking it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's the diuretic effect as well, because it would definitely have an effect on saliva production. So it could be that. Coffee is very diuretic, and also it's acidic, so that's not great for your teeth. So it's probably a combination of many, many different things, I think. Right. Next question, Rick. Do you think that my starting the carnivore diet so long ago is why I never got addicted to anything? Yes, would be my answer. Anyone else?
Yeah, although I think he said he doesn't naturally like things like fruit. I don't know. It's funny. I've loved that stuff since day one. You know, I used to pour glasses of orange juice down my neck, which is terrible. You know, thinking back now, what I used to do all the time, I used to finish every meal with orange juice. I used to have ice cream and pour orange juice on it, and it would freeze like a Solero. And I'd be, yeah, crazy. But I think some people just naturally like sweet things. Some people don't like things too sweet, but they'll have a load of starch instead. But yeah, lucky if you don't like that stuff.
Cool. Right. I'm going to go on to the next question then, which is, and thank you, Rick, for your full support. You're here every week. It's great. Greetings from Scotland at 8. Having started carnivore, I'm still taking supplements, fish oil, taurine, vitamin C, vitamin D, etc. Plus, I take a pre-workout drink. I feel I should ditch these. What do you think?
Do you want me to jump in quickly? My answer may be slightly different to everybody else's, quite possibly, but I'm not a lover of fish oil. All oils oxidize eventually. If you want fish oil, eat it naturally. If you want cod liver oil, eat cod liver, for example. All oils, even omega-3s, will oxidize over time. So this is why we should eat oils fresh. Fresh is best. Taurine, fantastic supplement, but plenty found in animal proteins. I don't see any need or requirement to supplement with taurine if you're consuming enough beef. Vitamin C, you don't need to supplement with vitamin C. The interesting thing with vitamin C is that it competes for absorption through the GLUT4 transporter with glucose. So if you're eating a carnivore-based lifestyle, i.e. no carb, then the absorption of vitamin C is massively increased. And all meat, or meats, I should say, not all meats, contain vitamin C. A 12-ounce steak, beef steak, for example, contains around 12 milligrams. Beef liver, I think, is around 25 milligrams. When we consume less carbohydrate, our requirement for exogenous vitamin C comes down. And we know this from the Napoleonic War, where they fed dead horse meat to the soldiers who suffered with scurvy, and that cured their scurvy. I haven't consumed any fruit for probably better part of a decade. And I'm not suffering with scurvy. So it's the proof's in the pudding. Vitamin D, I'm not a lover of vitamin D supplements either, and I'm sure you guys may counter the opposite. Vitamin D is incredibly important, but most of the benefits from vitamin D don't come from vitamin D. Vitamin D is a marker of metabolic health. If we are metabolically healthy, we have higher levels of vitamin D, but consuming vitamin D doesn't make us more metabolically healthy. Most of the benefits from vitamin D actually comes from UVB rays when they hit the skin. UVB rays increase nitric oxide, or UVA also increases nitric oxide. And it's the nitric oxide which is a potent vasodilator, which has been known to increase longevity. Most of the benefits come from that. And when the UVB hits the skin, vitamin D is synthesized to produce cholesterol to act as a sunscreen to protect you from the sun. So vitamin D is nothing more than a marker of good metabolic health. Vitamin D is found in abundance in animal proteins. And what you get from a supplement is very different from what you find from the sun and from animal proteins. My vitamin D levels are pretty high, and I see very little sun generally. I'm stuck in a cave most of the day. The blinds are down for podcasting. I got a blackout blind there. I see, and this isn't healthy. I'm not saying that we should be locked in caves all day. We need sunlight, but supplementing with vitamin D isn't the way to get it. Get it from the sun and get it from animal proteins. Pre-workouts, if they are clean, i.e. citrulline malate, beta-alanine, taurine, maybe MCT, they're all fine, but anything else beyond that, then I don't believe that you're going to be conferring much of a benefit. It would be interesting to get a list of the ingredients in there, but everything you need is found as nature intended. I don't believe you need to supplement with any of those if you are living a clean carnivore-based lifestyle.
Concur. Agreed. I think the only thing, taurine would be the only thing that I would potentially leave in, but you don't need it. Most people do very well without it. We consume a lot of the minerals that help to synthesize taurine. Even though taurine does exist in meat, obviously we don't find as much in meat now. It's sort of hung and bled out for long, so that it exists in the fluids of animal products. So you get a lot more taurine in your fish as well. So, rather than the fish oil and the taurine, eat fatty fish and you'll get a ton of both, and that will serve you well. I wouldn't personally be taking any vitamin D either. What else? Oil, same sort of thing. All the oils, vitamin C, totally unnecessary. Yeah,
just to add to something there as well that you've just reminded me of. I mean, it's when we talk fish oils, if we are looking at omega-3s, lamb is a fantastic source of omega-3s. There's around 10 times more omega-3s in lamb than there is in beef. Lamb is well underrated, I believe. So you don't even need to eat fish if it was omega-3s that you were going for. Although omega-3s are found in beef also.
Yeah, this business about vitamin D, I agree. I don't think it's very good to take it. And there's not much sunbathing up in the Arctic, is there? So, and the Inuit are fine for their vitamin D and of course their vitamin C. I'm not into supplements. I'm not into supplements mostly because most people don't know really what they need. They just do some kind of blunderbuss approach, and they'll go into some local supplement store and not get Richard's decent ones, where people might actually have some idea of what they need. And also they're often full of things, like fillers that cause leaky gut, or particularly maintain leaky gut in people who are autoimmune, especially. And they're high in deuterium quite often, as Sarah Pugh pointed out. So I'd save your money, buy more lamb and beef. Yeah.
Sounds good.
That's brilliant. Okay, let's go to the next question. Does anyone know what the red dye is used to make meat, like ribs and joints, red, I'm guessing? Is it toxic or harmful like other food dyes? Well, that's carbon monoxide, and it makes carboxymyoglobin. The carbon monoxide mixes with myoglobin, which is sort of cherry red. So that's how they do that. And is it harmful? Well, the thing is, if you make the meat an artificial color, then you can't see it changing color, if you see what I mean. So if it's starting to go off a bit and you look at it and think, well, that doesn't look quite right, that won't happen because you've got this fake color. So that's my 2 penneth on that. I don't think I know anything more about red meat and dyes. I think that's the only process I actually know about. It doesn't sound great, does it? Carbon monoxide, but like I say, it just binds with that myoglobin, and you get a pinky red color. So, anyone else?
Really,
No, absolutely no idea on that. Just a quick one on John Eubank says, if high in deuterium you're taking so little, is that really a problem on supplements? Absolutely, I agree. The poison is in the dosage, but if you add it to everything else, it's just another little thing that's probably wrong with some supplements. Yeah. So
yeah, I do apologize for my being off my game tonight. I'm absolutely shattered, and doesn't help having a painful voice. My fault, shouting at the TV. Right. Here's another question. Is your brain runs best on carbs a myth? Yes.
yeah.
Carry on, and I'll get the book where this myth started from, if you like.
Just see a conversation, any conversation between a vegan and a carnivore, and tell me which fuel the brain runs best on.
Yeah, you don't need a big fancy biochemistry book.
Super fuel for the brain. Absolutely. Every cell in the body, barring red blood cells, they love it. And glucose just gets in the way. We make all the glucose we need, and so it's not a requirement to consume carbs. We do best on fats. I mean, that, like Dr. Palmer says, it's kind of like a brain energy deficiency, which potentially can explain a lot of the amelioration of depression-like symptoms and things like that, bipolar. The moment I started to increase ketones and stop eating carbohydrates, 3 weeks later, my depression went, and it's been gone now for almost 2 years. So, yeah, I would say that my brain definitely runs better on fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the book I showed you there is the one that actually worked out how much glucose the brain needs, and it's 120 grams of glucose over 24 hours, which is about 5 grams per hour, which incidentally is the amount you need in your 5 liters of blood. It's like the body knows. It's incredible. And at no point does it say you need to eat carbohydrates in that book. And it does talk about gluconeogenesis, but of course all these things are taken out of context and used against people that know what they're talking about. So yeah, you will see, the brain needs 120 grams of carbs every 24 hours, so you've got to eat them, and that's not the case at all. Right, okay, Once a Week Man, he's got a question. Does any of the panel eat pork belly? I love the fat in pork belly and don't think that there's a beef equivalent. Does any of the panel? I do. I eat pork belly. I love the fat in pork belly too, and I had it yesterday. Really nice.
Yeah, the better quality, the better. Obviously, it's not like it's seed oils. It's not oxidized. It's a very, very stable fat. So it's food. If you can get high quality pork, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I actually had wild boar the other day. My dad brought me home some wild boar. Really, really nice. And I don't have any issues with the fat on pork. Even if I've had days where I've eaten mostly pork, just out of curiosity, like as an experiment to see. You know, how does that change things? Or do I feel different? Is it worse? As far as I know, it doesn't make a lot of difference. I do think we should be basing it on ruminant meat. It is a better, more balanced type of substrate, I think, all round. But for me, I've had no issues with pork, and it's great. It's very, very, very tasty. Lard is great to cook in, high in vitamin D, K2. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
I hardly ever eat it. I wish I could, because I absolutely love it. I had one mouthful of it today to try how it went in an air fryer, because I tried it in the air fryer to cook up 2 big strips of it for my son. And he has no problems with it at all. But with autoimmunity, as I do, have issues with that. I don't do that well on pork. But I wish I did, because I'd probably stuff my face with it every day, you know. And I tell you what, it came out really well in the air fryer. I've never tried that before. The crackling was perfect. It was fantastic, and I had to rip it out my hands, you know, because just to try it, I just one mouthful. But I don't eat it much. I wish I could, but for most people, I think it's great.
It is interesting because I've obviously suffered from autoimmunity, but my gut, where I had the problems, I don't have that anymore, and so I'm wondering, is that why I can drink some milk every now and again? Is that why I can have pork? It's a curious one. Yeah,
maybe. I think if I had both my legs amputated, you know, I'd probably be able to eat pork. It's not quite worth that, but
no, I would recommend it.
Yeah, I just want to show you something, in case you're interested. Linoleic acid in pasture-raised or grain-raised chicken. Oh, yeah, look at grain raised. Look at that linoleic acid. It's a lot worse. If you then compare it to walnuts, there's pasture-raised chicken, there's grain-raised chicken, and there's walnuts with their linoleic acid. So just thought I'd say it's not as bad as we think in comparison to walnuts, for instance. Just thought you'd like that.
The issue, as Lee said, with linoleic acid is the fact that it's oxidized. But if you consume fresh pork, then in essence, it's unoxidized. Pork contains 10 times higher levels of linoleic acid than beef does. But as long as it's fresh, the issue is pork items like bacon, you know, if you look at the dates on them, they have long shelf lives. And that's where I would question. And what is it fed? My pork comes from a local farm where he feeds his pigs all the offcuts, of apples and veg and all sorts. They're not grain-fed pork, which is another factor. So I do well on that pork. But if I eat pork from the supermarket, then it doesn't do so well for me. So there's obviously something in the quality in regards to what it's fed and the age of the meat as well. But I do love pork. I tend to limit pork and chicken to maybe once a week. Lamb and beef I tend to thrive on, but I do love pork.
There's something else about pork as well. And I forget exactly what it is. Something to do with when you eat it, it thickens up the blood. But if you go, somebody puts in a browser 0 carb Zen pork, there's an interesting article there that I must have read about 12 years ago or something. But I don't know exactly what happens, but I can eat bacon. I have no problem. But if I like roast pork or pork belly, fresh and cooked, I don't know. There's something maybe about the curing process that takes something away from it. But even the pork that was from Eskimo Kitchen, the Magalitsa pork that Zofia and Paleomedicina recommend, I had some of that sent over. I didn't do great on that either. Even that, which is sort of PKD approved. Not so great on pork, but yeah, fine for most people.
Cool. I think that's everybody on the panel, which is good. I'm a petite female. Just thought I'd say that. That's not a question. I just thought I'd say it out loud. And I'm a carnivore for 1 year. Started gaining belly fat, so now tracking macros. If eating 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight, I only require 500 grams of beef mince a day, but feeling hungry. Any advice? Yeah,
you can increase the protein. There's nothing wrong with going higher on the protein. If you're gaining belly fat, I mean, there could be a whole other host of reasons. Are you drinking coffee? Coffee will increase cortisol and can lead to extra weight gain. if you're training beyond 45 minutes in an hour, that can do it also. Age plays a big part, especially when it comes into training. Steve and I spoke last night about menopause and the importance of iodine and selenium and so on and so forth. So there's lots of things to take into account there. But if all else fails, then you're consuming too much fat, and you might want to think about reducing the amount of fat that you're consuming within the mince. I preference higher fat cuts with most things, but I increase the fat if I want to gain weight. If I want to lose weight, I usually increase the protein and reduce the fat. And sometimes I'll have lower fat days. Other days I might do zero fat, i.e. I may be eating bassa fish or tuna, chicken breast, leaner cuts of beef, for example, king prawns, or I'll increase omega-3s. Omega-3s don't store as well in the body. They increase cholecystokinin, which is satiety signaling. So you could increase your omega-3s. C8s, oils, MCTs, they don't store in the body either, but they also increase satiety signaling. To curb hunger, melanocyte stimulating hormone. So get out in the sun. UVA rays to the sun without glasses on will increase melanocyte stimulating hormone. What else is there? There's glutamine. You can take a glutamine supplement, just add it to water and drink it. That will help curb hunger also. But try through the omega-3s first. But there's a whole host of questions and things that we can get into there. But I think everybody on the panel offers one-to-one coaching. So I think, that might be worth a coaching call with one of us to get into the weeds, because there could be several levers to pull there.
What we've seen quite often in the Big Fat Challenge and, the calls on there, when women have started putting on belly fat or hit plateaus, it's quite often that they're eating too little. And I think sometimes the body can go into starvation mode, particularly with women. When you see couples go carnivore and the guy gets ripped and whatever, and the woman's kind of doing okay and feeling better, but they're going, why is he dropping so much fat? I think there are more things, more sort of hormonal influences there that probably Richard can explain better. But if you're still hungry, eat.
Yeah, this is why I'm thinking maybe increase the protein. Again, I think a coaching call with one of us would be really important. Fasting, extended fasting doesn't work so well with females either. So if you're only eating one meal a day, that could be causing a problem. Fasting is a stress to the body. Men do a lot better on fasting. Men tend to do better with one meal a day. It's 2 meals a day generally for me, but I find women thrive better on 2 to 3. Again, for hormonal reasons, as Phil suggested. Whole host of things. I think we probably need to get into the weeds there. So either chuck some more bits in the comments, or maybe tap one of us up for a coaching session.
Yeah, I was going to say potentially eat more.
Yeah.
Fat and protein. Just address your satiety. And it's interesting you were talking about sunlight. If you're getting a lot of blue light exposure or not enough sunlight, that's going to elevate stress, cortisol, blood sugar, and potentially interfere with weight and stuff like that. So wherever you are, I don't know, but I would encourage you get outside as much as you can, expose yourself to sunlight and reduce blue light exposure, and eat until you're satisfied.
Yeah, definitely get Iris on the computer and to cut out the blue light as much as you can, or wear some blue blockers. And if it's anything to do with the thyroid, actually wear a scarf. It sounds mad, but in front of the computer, the light can go in there. It doesn't just go in our eyes. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I lost a question. I pressed the wrong button. Like I say, I'm not on it tonight. Jonathan, please come back. But anyway, it was about brittle nails. What can cause brittle nails with this way of eating? I mean, my bit is, dehydration, and then you've got vitamins A and C, biotin and iron can all have an effect if they're low, obviously, with brittle nails. Anyone else?
Fasting again is a big contributor. Fasting is fantastic. But what people don't understand is that when you produce ketones, you're in a fasted mimicked state. We don't need to be fasting to benefit from autophagy. The body is always in a state of autophagy. There's a balance between AMPK and mTOR. And even when we are eating and mTOR is overpronounced, because they're both always activated, we still benefit from the benefits of autophagy, which or fasting, which is autophagy, mitophagy, brown fat activation, lipolysis, and insulin sensitivity. All of these are activated for prolonged periods of time. Fasting seems to work best for people who are not living a ketogenic or carnivore lifestyle, and that's not putting fasting down. I haven't eaten today yet, but I don't recognize that as fasting, and I know that sounds stupid. I eat to satiety. I'm not hungry, so I haven't eaten. When I go home, I'll be eating lots and lots and lots, and I'll probably have 2 meals tonight. And yes, it's late, and I do eat just before bed, but I haven't eaten because I haven't been hungry. Eat to satiety, So if don't force a fast. Fasting isn't always beneficial, especially for women. But we need that energy. We need those nutrients. We need vitamins A, D, and K, as Steve said, and we need it with fat. Eat your food and don't force fasting is one top tip.
And Jonathan, there, the carnivore muscle, zinc deficiency, dehydration, or chronic overconsumption of copper, brittle nails. And of course, that might be alluding to eating too much liver, Jonathan. I'm not sure. This is why we miss him. He's very good with these sort of things. He's very good with everything, isn't he, actually? Right, another question. Any pro or anti-opinions on duck eggs and duck meat? Both nice and high in fat. Yes, I eat duck eggs and I like duck meat, but I don't eat it a lot. I don't have any particular sort of nuance or science behind it. I think it's just a very good source of fatty meat, and the eggs are unctuous. They're really nice.
Yeah, snap.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
No, it's good stuff. I think they're probably slightly higher in nutrients than chicken eggs. I've also heard that a lot of people that don't do well on chicken eggs do a hell of a lot better on duck eggs. So I would say there's probably just less inflammatory for whatever reason. I'm not sure. You've got that natural lectin, haven't you, that binds to biotin, avidin. I'm not sure if that's anything to do with it, whether it's less in duck eggs. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think it's lower in ovomucoid as well, which is the main contributor to why people don't do well on, or the other one, as well as avidin, in regards to chicken eggs. So two main or two possible contributors there. But yeah, more nutrients.
In the protein part, is that in the white or the yolk?
The ovomucoid is in the white.
Right, I was going to say, because most people do well as well on the yolks when they ditch the whites, don't they?
Yeah, I said, yeah. Yolks for the win.
Right. Yeah. Okay, two questions to go, and then I can go and rest my throat. And hello, I weigh 250 pounds, lift weights, and I want to drop weight, but still keep my muscle. I eat 3 eggs and 8 to 12 ounces of ground beef daily. Is that enough protein to maintain muscle and drop weight? Well, weight being body fat, I'm assuming you mean. Thanks.
Sorry, guys, you crack on while I do some. Oh, yeah, that's a lot.
The conversion.
That's what I was just doing now. Yeah, I mean, 12 ounces there is 340 grams. The 3 eggs are going to contribute another 18 grams. So top end, I mean, there's better part of 360 grams, which is more than enough. We need at least 0.5 grams per pound in order to maintain. To get technical, we need 0.82 grams per pound in order to heal, build, and repair. 1 is a round figure that generally all of us tend to push because it's a nice round figure to remember. There's nothing wrong with going more. So you're definitely consuming enough to maintain muscle. We don't lose muscle as quickly as we're led to believe. Muscle is precious. It takes a long time to gain. What we do lose when we adopt a ketogenic carnivore lifestyle is volume in the muscle, but we don't lose muscle itself. If you were to test on an in-body composition machine, for example, your dry protein probably wouldn't change at all. Muscle is precious. It's very difficult to lose muscle. The glycogen that we lose initially is volume, but we can replace that with creatine monohydrate, with sufficient electrolyte supplementation or salts in general. But we will upregulate the monocarboxylate transporters and enzymes BDH, ACAT, and SCOT eventually to be able to fill the muscle with glycogen, even living a carnivore lifestyle. It can take up to 6 to 12 months, But when we upregulate the MCTs and those enzymes, we have the ability to send lactate to the liver, which will convert it into glycogen and ship it back to the muscle at a higher rate, arguably, than your counterpart as a carbohydrate athlete. So that's plenty not to lose muscle. The lever there to pull would be, again, manipulate the fat. I mean, there's plenty of protein in there. If you want to drop fat, let me read that again. Lift weights. I want to drop weight and keep muscle. Plenty to keep muscle. Resistance training, obviously. You want to try to benefit from something called the mTOR reset. So train your weights, lift your weights. Try not to train longer than an hour. Protein too, 80. That's not right. Is it 85? No, that's not 85 grams. It's 12 ounces is 340 grams, isn't it? Well, that's in weight. Apologies. Wait a minute. Yeah, that 12 ounces is 340. Let's do this. Yeah, I think Jonathan's right, actually. I can't get my calculator. A quarter of that, it is going to be too low, isn't it? Because that isn't 340 grams in protein. That's 340 grams in weight.
Yes.
Well spotted. Yeah, you're right. It's too low. 340 divided by 4 or 5, give or take. It's even lower. The 85, the top end. I mean, it could even be as low as 60. Yeah, so we need more. If that's what we are consuming, 340 grams in weight, top end, that's 100. So that would be too low. Where's the question back up again, Steve? Sorry.
Yeah, okay, hang on. Sorry.
250 pounds.
Yeah,
200. Yeah. So I mean, £1. So we're short. If those things are correct, there, 250 pounds, we need to be consuming 250 grams of protein, which as a ballpark figure is going to be around 800 to 1,000 grams of weight in animal proteins. Let's base it on 25. It's roughly between 20 and 25%. So 250 is going to be 1,000 based on 4, isn't it? So what's that going to be in ounces? So this is the lower end. We're talking 35 ounces. 35 ounces of animal proteins generally, and it does depend on the cut. Good spot, John. It does depend on the cut. Eggs is going to contain around 6, depending on the size. Animal proteins like beef, for example, is somewhere between 20 and 25%. But ounce-wise, in regards to beef, we're looking at 35 ounces, which is a lot more. So yeah, something to consider. Training is going to activate mTOR, and then we want to benefit from the mTOR reset then, which takes place every 4 hours after. So we could train, for example, at 8 in the morning, then eat at 12, and then it would be at 4, and then maybe at 8. And that is going to give you 4 mTOR activations. But I think protein needs to be addressed first. Yeah, that's way too low, if I've read that correct. I mean, is that per day? 8 to 12 ounce daily? That's not per meal, is it? Yeah, too low. Way too low.
Too low. Cool. And I think we've got 2 minutes left with one question to go. There's might be a few more that I've missed, but there you go. I have
I have a really, really quick one in here, just sketched by Steve, so it's really important. I can deal with this in seconds. Phil, do you have any clients that don't do well on PKD? People who go on PKD and people that do it, strictly, are normally very, very sick to want to come on it, and they can have all sorts of adaptation issues, which is not that they don't do well. If they keep on with it and do it right, then I have not seen it not work for autoimmunity and stuff. So it's just that there's a load of hiccups, and a lot of people say they didn't do well on PKD. I feel like a vegan saying they did it wrong. But it's not so much that, it's just not understanding the issues that can happen early on. That's all. There we go.
Okay.
And that's me. I've got to shoot. I will leave you to it, but take care, and I'll see you guys soon.
See you.
Cheers, gents.
See you.
See you, man.
Well, actually, this question I wanted to ask Rich about, but there you go. I have low blood volume. I drink 1.5 liters of oral rehydration solution daily, which helps this. That amount of solution has 21 grams of glucose. Any concerns taking that much glucose alongside the full carnivore? Yeah, you don't really need that glucose. I understand that you have the low volume of blood, hypovolemia, which is just low volume in the blood. And you could do a dehydration fluid, which just contains sodium, potassium, and chloride, which is why I wanted Rich to stay on. You don't need the glucose, because what will happen is the glucose will be replenished by gluconeogenesis. Your body will actually work out how much you need. That's way too much, because 5 liters of blood only needs 5 grams of glucose. So there's no reason for it to be in there. But if you are speaking to a doctor and they absolutely insist you have to have it, then obviously you need to take their advice. We're not doctors. It's just educational and informational purposes. But considering I did private blood tests for 10 years, I think I can have a little bit of a say in that. Low blood volume is a very rare condition, but there can also be reasons why that's happening. So being a proper person, could you just look at why that's happening? Is it just dehydration? Are you sweating excessively? Have you got excessive diarrhea, vomiting? Or are you just not drinking enough? Is there some sort of blood loss? So definitely get into the sort of why is that happening. Some medications can cause this as well. And if you've had severe burns, that can cause this to happen. Right. So that's the end of the show. So we're going to say goodbye to Lee. Say what you want to say, Lee, to everybody.
Bye.
Phil?
No, nothing else.
Nothing. Okay.
I thought you were
And
gonna
on that high note, I'm going to end the stream.
One quick thing. There was something up here? Mojo Curio said, "Are we still? You can't afford a consult. Are we still doing the group calls on the Big Fat Challenge?" No, but I am doing the same kind of ones with some of the same people and whatever via my Substack. So for subscribers, so I do 2 calls on a Wednesday, in the morning and in the evening, to get different time zones. That reminds me, I need to set my alarm to get up early, don't I?
You do. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and thanks Jonathan for putting some great input in. Bye.
Cheers.